Hi again. Welcome to the 10th annual Memphis Monologues benefiting Planned Parenthood. My name is Elizabeth Kawine. I'm the co-founder and producer of this event. 10 years ago, this was an idea, and I want to credit my co-founders because it was one of those ideas that sprang up over wine in a living room, and I can't be sure that it wasn't all of ours at once. They're not here tonight, but at least as far as I know, but Heather Anderson, Stacy Smith, and Andrea Olson and I came up with this idea really as a way just to raise some more money for Planned Parenthood. We were producing the Vaginal Monologues at that time for Planned Parenthood. How many of you came to Vaginal Monologues productions? Yes! Or were in Vaginal Monologues productions, yay! And we were limited to 3 performances of the show. And what we knew was that that limited the amount of money that we could raise for the cause, and we wanted to do more. So this started out as just a way to have some drinks and get people to open up their checkbooks. And we have raised a lot of money, more than $40,000 to date, and we should crack 50 tonight. Yes. But I think the thing that has surprised me and that I never could have expected is the community that's really been kind of built up around this event. And what an amazing space this has become for women to share their stories and the way that people look forward to it and to being able to do that every year. So I'm really grateful that you're here to share that with me and with us. I tuned in for just a little bit of the debate last night, and it really just reminded me of all of the times that I have been talked over and talked at, and I know that many of us can relate to that, and I am so thankful, even more thankful, for a space where we can listen and where we are honoring women's voices and giving them that space. So yes, let's clap for that. So as some of you know, a decade felt like the right time for me to hand the reins over. So tonight is my final night producing the Memphis Monologues. It's not going anywhere. It's in amazing hands, and I'll tell you more about that later. But it also seemed like the right time to add my voice. So I will be sharing a monologue later this evening, and I'm looking forward to that. But before we get there, it has been my great honor every year to be the first and usually only person to have read all of the monologues before the night. And I can promise you that we are in for a beautiful, heavy, heady experience together tonight, and I just want to thank you all for being here for that. And I have some other thank yous that I have to make because I do not do this by myself, hardly. I am a small player on an amazing team that brings us together. I want to give thanks to Laura Goodman-Bryan, who is our silent auction queen. Just the master of the auction, and I think is wearing a pussy fascinator right now. Is that? There you go. So thank you to Laura. Thank you to Jacada, who organizes our bar. And I want to give thanks to RJ and Susan Moskop, who year after year have made that bar possible. They love to get you drunk. So thank you so much. I also want to give thanks to Krista Penny Myers and Kristen Laird, who are a really important part of this team that brings us together. And big thanks to Doug Carpenter for hosting us in his beautiful space. He donates this to us, you guys. This is just it's a huge value for us and really lets us give even more money to the cause. And speaking of that, I'm really excited to stop talking now and introduce Ashley Cofield, whose title I'm going to mess up because it's so big and long and fancy, but she's basically the CEO of like 17 states now for Planned Parenthood. Give it up.
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. This is such a special night for everybody who works for Planned Parenthood and who volunteers for Planned Parenthood, because tonight we're honoring the 10th anniversary of the Memphis Monologues. I know. And every year for 10 years, it has benefited Planned Parenthood, and I have absolutely loved being a part of this production. I can still remember Memphis Monologues from 8, 9, 10 years ago, like it was yesterday. And I've met some of my favorite people through the production of Memphis Monologues. And like Elizabeth was saying, it really has built such a special community. I want to thank the team of folks who've put it together and made previous productions possible. They've already been recognized a little bit, but I have to say something because these people are so near and dear to our hearts. Laura Goodman-Bryan and Jacada Jessup, and Rob Dove, and Kristen Laird, and Britt McDaniel, and Susan and RJ Moskoff. I mean, thank you. And Krista Pennymyers. We appreciate you so much. And last but not least, of course, is the beautiful Elizabeth K. Wine. Elizabeth, I don't know if you all know that in addition to doing this, Elizabeth served for many years on our board of directors. And I just want to thank you for your vision and your commitment to this production for 10 years, and for your dedication and friendship to Planned Parenthood and to me and to all of us. Thank you. I also want to thank the DCA team, Doug Carpenter and Andrea Brown and Andrea Wiley, for the use of this super cool space and for being so supportive of us. At Planned Parenthood, you know what we do, but I have to say it because that's my job, is to tell you that, that we provide affordable, high quality, and non-judgmental sexual health care, honest and accurate sexual health education, and fearless advocacy for your reproductive rights. There would not be a Planned Parenthood in Memphis if it weren't for you all, our donors and supporters, and our volunteers. And I just thank you so much for being here tonight to support this incredible production and to support our mission. So a really quick update, and then I'll get off the stage. You know the legislative session is underway, right? Sorry about that. But I know. But we're really proud of some proactive bills that we're working on with Memphis legislators like Karen Camper and Katrina Robinson. We have one bill that's demanding that schools provide age-appropriate and comprehensive sexual health education for K through 12 students. Pretty cool, right? Okay, but there's also a lot of really bad stuff, and I thought I'd just bring you up to date about it just really quickly. And the folks who are in power are going to do all they can for as long as they can. There's a 6-week abortion ban. It passed the House last year. It's back up again this year. There is a bill that would require us to put signs in our health centers that explains to people that medication abortion can be reversed. It can't, by the way. There is a bill, there's a proposal for the census to count the unborn. What? Yeah, in 2020 they want to count the unborn. And there is a bill to codify into law that the Washington Post and CNN are fake news. This is real, y'all. I'm not making this stuff up. This stuff is real. Gabby, is it real? Where are you? I saw you out there. Thank you. It's real. So I just want you guys to know that we will never back down, ever, on anything, ever, that would erode your rights or keep you from getting access to high-quality health care. We will fight to ensure safe and legal abortion, comprehensive sexual health education, and affordable birth control now and forever. So at Planned Parenthood, we always sign off our emails to each other, not always, but a lot. We say, "In this together." Those are the words that we use, and it's kind of our mantra. It's part of our workplace values. And so I'll close with that. We're in this together. This night reminds us of that, and it's nights like this that keep us all going. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the show.
All right, we're gonna get to some monologues, but first I wanna have Krista come on up and help me do this next bit. So Krista is gonna be taking the reins over from me. I'm handing the baton over to her for 2021. And I should also just note the rest of our amazing team who are going nowhere and unless there's something they haven't told me, but they're going nowhere and going to continue to show up in the incredible ways that they do for this production. So we're going to kind of walk you through how the evening is going to run. You have this program, hopefully, on your chair. The order that you see the women listed on that program is the order that they will be sharing their monologue.
So we will have the first 3 women share their stories. We will have a brief intermission, which will give you all a time to regroup, get a drink, sign up for the silent auction if you haven't, try and outbid your best friend if you haven't.
Or yourself.
Or yourself.
Is the case maybe?
Yes. And then we will have the second half with the last 3 women sharing their story, or excuse me, last 4 sharing their stories.
And the silent auction will close 10 minutes after the final monologue. So do not fear that you will have another opportunity after the last monologue, so you can give all of your attention to the women who are up here tonight. And without further ado, I want to give a shout out to Nick, Wendy, and Shiloh, who are going to be sharing their monologues in this first section. And without further ado, welcome to the 10th Annual Memphis Monologues.
So I was really excited when I received the email asking me to be a part of this night. It's something that I have wanted to do for years, so naturally when I got that email, I started writing immediately. Now, my first draft was about finding God's message in failed situations. But the more I thought about it, I scrapped it because I can't realistically talking about something that I'm still trying to navigate on my own. The second draft was about childhood rape and assault, and how the coping mechanism I thought would keep bad things from happening to me actually followed me into adulthood and created all sorts of chaos. As ready as I thought I was to hop on this stage and tell my personal business, the anxiety that took over me tapped me on my shoulder and said, "Sis, this isn't it." As performance day grew near, I had no clue what I was going to talk about. I read through my previous draft, and the title from the first attempt stuck out, Message in the Mess. While it was originally intended to be used in a different context, I realized there was another story worthy of being told, finding the message in my mess. Now, there was a time in my life where I spent several years dealing with multiple layoffs. I missed out on the prime of my late 20s and early 30s because while my friends were out traveling, popping bottles, and standing on couches, I was sitting at home spending my days trying to figure out if my career was screwed before it even fully got started. My soul physically ached. I'd lie in bed day after day wondering to myself, or telling myself, this isn't who you are, this isn't how things are supposed to be. Now, those of you who have tried to find a job in this Memphis economy know that it's not the easiest thing to do. But a now ex-girlfriend encouraged me to pursue my passion, journalism. I like to think that I was far ahead of my time because the typical role of a reporter didn't interest me in any way whatsoever. I wanted to tell creative stories. I wanted to shine a light on the people, places, and things who are most often overlooked right here in our city. I always jokingly, but not really, say I created my own internship. I branded myself as Nick the Editor. I started a blog, and I spent my last $700 on a camera from the Sam's Club on 64. If there was an event happening, I was there. Instagram became a helpful tool not just to share moments in time, but also to make connections. Now, because my undergraduate degree is in what I like to call basket weaving, which is actually professional studies, I went back to the U of M and I took a few journalism classes just so I could get the basics underway. Ooh, wait a minute. Struggling to find a job. Where was I? Hold on. Give me a minute. Here we go. More than anything, I was transparent about my journey, and I received encouragement from people I had never even met, many of whom remain close friends to this day. It was Josh and Jasmine who encouraged me to check out the journalism program. It was Kelly who connected me to the late Bernal Smith II, may he rest in peace, at the Tri-State Defender. And it was Angela who let me write a press release, giving me constructive criticism so that I would nail it the next time. And most importantly, it was Annika who wouldn't let me give up and who encouraged me and taught me how to make my own seat at the table. Still, my life was a mess. I worked hard to show potential employers why I was who they wanted, but yet I always seemed to come up short. At the height of the mess, in July of 2015, I accepted a digital content job at a Biloxi news station. I was a wreck because although I knew it was meant for me, I didn't want to go. I only discussed it with 2 close friends and my mom because I didn't need anyone stirring the shit while I was still trying to make sense of it. In August, not too long before I said my goodbyes, I sat down in my pastor's office and let everything out. After 15 years in the city that embraced me, I was starting over at the age of 33. Among other sound wisdom, Pastor Johnny looked me in my eyes and told me, this is your year. This is your Jesus year. Pay attention to the numbers and live with expectation. Now, for my fellow church girls, you know all about those last 3 words. And John 4:13 instructs us, whatever you ask in my name, I will do so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If you ask me anything in my name, I will do it. Now, of course, God already knows the desires of our heart, the new job, your own business, the new man, maybe the new woman. But not believing that he'll work all of that out according to his will for our life is counterproductive. Now, at one point, I actually decided to stop asking him for what I wanted. During prayer at the Life Church, I'd simply lift my hands and tell him, do your will, and put me wherever it was I was meant to be. When it became clear that Biloxi was my assigned position, I packed a U-Haul and drove south. Now, I'm honest enough to admit that on that 6-hour drive, I rethought that whole entire strategy. After my daily tears dried and I accepted that I was bound by contract to be there for 2 years, I embraced Coast Life. See, you know what I was feeling. I went on adventures. I recruited people at work to teach me new skills, and I even talked my boss to letting me be on TV, because this face was made for the Tizu. But when it was time to renew my contract, I had a nervous breakdown, literally. I couldn't eat and I couldn't sleep. A few days before I had to make a decision, I sat in the station parking lot and bawled, unable to catch my breath. I didn't want to resign that contract, but I didn't have any other choice. I was afraid of the coast becoming my new normal, which in and of itself wasn't a bad thing, but career-wise, it also wasn't the best thing. Now, after falling into the arms of a manager, I was able to calm down, and I eventually signed the papers, but I also committed to making the best of whatever came next. So, what came next? An offer for a digital content manager job in Shreveport. The director sought me out. She picked me. She chose me. But after everything was almost finalized, something happened. The newspaper here in Memphis made an offer. I had to get back to my city. I had to get back to the people I knew and loved me, knew who loved me and embraced me for who I was. Even though the choice to come home and work in print made me more miserable than I was far away from home, it was all part of God's plan. More importantly, it was part of my mess. As it turned out, that particular mess led me to a job at ALSAC doing exactly what I prayed for all those years, telling creative stories and shining a light on the people, places, and things who were most often overlooked. Now, whatever your mess may be, I'd like to leave you with these few words. For some of us, the other side of the rainbow requires us to go through a little bit of mud first. Not because we are less than, but because there are lessons along the way. Our valleys, our messy, muddy valleys, weren't meant for us to set up camp. Don't stay there, y'all. That's not what it's there for. They were meant to be a place where we can grow and strengthen ourselves in order to make it out to the other side. So should you ever feel shattered into a million pieces by your mess, remember, it's okay to be broken. The broken pieces are here to remind us that we're still here. We're still on this earth, and the best is yet to come.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I was so excited when my godmom asked me to join this year's Memphis Monologue to share my story. So many things have happened in my life that I didn't know what story to choose because it was too much. I wasn't confident if I was ready to share because this is me telling something that broke me at one point with strangers that I did not know. But I also felt like these strangers have become my family today, so why not? The day of my wedding, I had no idea what it was. My dad, whom I hadn't seen for 4 years, had invited me to his house, 4 hours bus drive from where I lived. He even paid for an air ticket for me to fly to where he was. This is a father who did not even want to contribute to my education, and I had not seen him for years. I thought he probably wants to fix our relationship. I was in the university studying accounting, an education he didn't want to contribute to or be a part of, because a woman's place is in the kitchen, a belief that I never was a part of. Since I was not going to relent or compromise, I began selling used clothes to make sure my school fees were paid. My other bills were paid for on time. I was only 22 and I had so many dreams. Dreams that I did not deserve according to my society, because the culture taught us that it was too much for a woman to ask for education. I flew in that day looking my best. Maybe this is time to convince Daddy that education was good for a woman too. When I arrived, that was my wedding. Everybody was dressed so nice. There were cultural troops. Cooking was going on. My auntie literally had a headgear as huge as a satellite dish. Once I walked in, the drummers increased their sound, and my aunties took me in through the back door so I could get properly dressed for the occasion. I was scared. The first question that came into my mind is my father dead? Because before I went there, all our conversation was by text. So I was not sure what the celebration was all about. Reality dawned on me when one of my aunties said, "Our beautiful bride is in." Then I froze. Wait, what? Then I knew what really was going on. Arranged marriage was no news to me, but I never saw this coming. I had always said it will never happen to me. I was struggling to make ends meet so I can go through school. I knew the rules of this marriage. The more beautiful I was, the more dowry my dad gets. The more educated I was, the more cows he gets. Yes, the education he thought was useless was going to earn him more cows. I had to be a virgin, and damn, I was. Above all the numerous cultural brutalities that I was supposed to experience before the marriage would be complete was female genital mutilation. Cutting off my clitoris so I don't become a hoe when my 75-year-old husband becomes 100 when I am still 35. For them to be sure I was a virgin, in the night after the wedding, the female siblings of my husband, the groom, will confine the bride in a room and insert a tiny egg in my vagina to see if it enters or not. Whilst this was going on, the groom's friends and family would be outside the front door waiting for the good news. either I was a wife material or not. They would have drinks, drums, and dancing. Records have shown that refusal of these marriages end in 98% death of the brides, as it's usually a long custom where you've been married off even before you were born. More of family ties and commitment. Knowing all this, I pretended to accept the marriage. I went into the room, dressed up. After I dressed up, I told my aunties I needed to use the urinary. When I got into the urinary, that was when my accounting mind started ticking. What was I going to do? I couldn't think of a way out, but when I looked up, I saw a window. Ooh, there I go. I flew right through it outside, left everything I had taken, including my phone. Don't worry, it wasn't no good phone. I went back to school and hid myself to prevent me from this arranged marriage. That night, I called my German friend. He had asked me out for almost 3 years. I wasn't really the man kind of girl, so I never agreed. But I called him and I said, meet me at the hotel. I needed to break my virginity. A call I never regretted making, as it resulted in me having a beautiful daughter. I never physically saw my dad again until he passed in 2017. You would think this is the worst experience that I had had to escape, but no, it wasn't. Living in a society where homosexuality was by law a misdemeanor, punishable by 2 years imprisonment, made life more complicated for people like me to find anything called love. Finally, I found my ex in 2016, and we lived together as friends to the public, but lovers behind closed doors. Unfortunately, our doors were not closed enough. On my birthday, we were attacked by 5 anti-gay men. We were beaten till we were near unconscious. We were locked up in my house, and the house was set on fire. It only took a miracle for me to be here today. And I lost my partner to the fire, as she was too weak to escape. I was too weak to carry her with me. I was on the run for my life once again. I went through 10 countries alone, with no passport, no emotional support, mental bruises, physical bruises. Through South Africa, Brazil, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, Panama. Panama was the worst nightmare, as I went through the Darien Gap. I do not know if you've ever heard what the Darien Gap is. If you've not, it's one of the world's most dangerous jungles. I got lost alone in it for 8 days, with no food, no water, and not knowing even the direction I was going. I went through Costa Rica, El Salvador. Nicaragua was another hectic place to cross. Having to cross through the Pacific Ocean in the middle of the night on a speedboat that was supposed to carry 8 people. We were 32 in the boat with no life jackets. The boat got in the middle of the river, or the sea, or ocean, and almost drowned all of us. The first batch of people who went all died. Then through Guatemala, Mexico, and now I'm here. I'm extremely grateful for the wonderful people who took me into their homes and treated me not as a stranger, but as their own. Because coming here, I did not know anybody. I did not have friends, no family, no support. Time will not allow me to mention all the names of the people who have loved on me. Lisa in Clarksville, Miss Doreen, Miss Blights and Catherine, my Californian mothers. Miss Oni Jones, he's right there in the audience. Miss Rena, Jonathan, and my sweet mom, who calls me her friend, Miss Laura Goodman Bryan. Just for your information, she pulled me up here tonight. Thank you all so much for being amazing and for allowing God to use you to be a blessing on my life. Miss Laura, I love you and I appreciate you to the moon and back. Even though life has been fun for me, it has not been fun for me. I refuse to be hateful. I refuse to be pitiful. I refuse to compromise and to allow life experience to make me a shadow of myself. I refuse to be labeled as the young lady who had to stop school to get married away in a forced marriage. I refuse to be the lady who had the female genital mutilation just to please her culture. I refuse to be pushed by society to be with a partner that I will leave to hate. So next time, when life decides to bring your way horrific experiences, tell life your name. And let life understand that you are strong enough for any life challenges, believing in yourself, and always knowing that even if you've not heard other people's stories, you are not alone. My name is Rita Wendekujori. Thank you.
It's always so hard to know which stories to share. My vagina has lived a storied life. I used to say it was broken, scarred, but now I say storied instead. I'd like to say she's kind of like a cat of nine tails, but this pussy has lived at least a dozen lives, or more. My vagina barely remembers being fingered in the bathtub by Dad, because that was in the shadow time, before memories are solid. Just melty murmurs that toss and turn when I try to sleep. Background noise to the night terrors of being paralyzed by his weight unable to move or scream. She sort of recalls the hot, bony crush of drunken man laps being passed around like a rag doll, shrinking inside from their crudeness. But these are not the stories I came to tell you tonight. I've already told them over and over. I've already lamented the loss of my favorite, so cute little pink nightie, torn by my first rapist at 9, having to stay quiet so as not to wake my sister sleeping next to us. I've already raged about being choked and torn apart on the riverbank outside Storyville by the stranger I probably shouldn't have left the club with at 18. And I've already shared the shoring up it took to repair after being drugged in a bar, mugged on the street, coming to the next morning in a solitary jail cell, where I absolutely am sure that I was not alone, and where I most certainly died a little bit inside. See, my vagina, she has way better stories to tell. She's danced naked in the eye of a hurricane and rolled around in soft moss like a wood nymph, luring young partners to a siren song of porn moans. She's well-traveled, too, and she likes to dress in velvet and leather. She's left wet spots in at least 8 countries. In tents and trains and trucks and dive bar bathrooms. Shit, she's even a member of the Mile High Club. My vagina, she survived cervical cancer, 3 days of labor for childbirth, and 2 sexless marriages. Onward. My vagina is resilient. Not a wounded warrior, but a resurrected rebel. Born again and again and again. In the wild, watery depths of each holy orgasm, where past and future dissolve while worshiping the universal union of here and now. Yes, my vagina, she is mother, maiden, crone, all in one day and sometimes all at once. See, my vagina is not just a survivor. She's a thriver. Determined to begin again, to discover new delights. And she refuses to be defined by the toxic plot twists along the way. Oh yeah, back to stories. So when my mother was the age that I am now, she Googled me for the first time. Oh boy. And what she found was my writings about dildos and porn and anal sex for anything that moves, a journal of bisexual lifestyle. There you go. You can Google it if you know my maiden name. I took her toy shopping that year, and she bought her first vibrator to test out my defiant rejection of her proclamation at that point that if you've had one orgasm, you've had them all. And I do believe if you ask her today, she's a convert. Now reveling in the vibrancy of her post-menopausal, might as well live it, reunions with long-lost lovers, knowing she needs none of them. Oh, and this year, my amazing teen daughter wished me Happy Mother's Day, observing, I must be a great mama because she's not pregnant, she hasn't even been raped yet, so yay! So wise, so knowing at such a young age. I must be doing something right. My vagina, she giggles as we groom for new lovers. Careful not to shave too close to that bareness of little girl puffy exposure. She tingles at the choosing and reminds me to be present in my body when my mind wanders. See, my vagina and I, we're doing just fine. More than fine. We're amazing. We're busy. We're creating our own best life every day, or at least most days. You can't win them all, right? So we've been through a lot, my vagina and I, and we've been called a lot of nasty things. But anxiety be damned. fuck being called a bitch. We will not absorb that shit. We are not broken. We are whole. My vagina flourishes in great part through swapping stories like these tonight, in an ever-expanding and contracting rhythm of a fluid, nourishing vagina village. A lot of that village is here tonight. You all know who you are. Old Boys Network be damned, because women banding together are strong as fuck. Yeah, me too, and you too, all of you. I'm thankful every day for all of the women in my life who've got my back, and all my other parts too. My vagina is evolving, emerging, unfolding, reinvigorating, revitalizing, and shivers with anticipation of the new stories we're gonna make ahead. My vagina is not defined by any one story. None of us are. We're all interconnected conglomerations of our storied lives, dancing like stardust, lighting the cosmos. All right, let's do this, y'all. You thought you were just gonna get to sit and listen? Now you get to share your stories, all of them. So let's play a little game. Yeah, you, get out your phones and open a text message to someone, anyone in your vagina village. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it first. Okay, you're gonna type, my vagina is, there it is, okay. And then you're gonna pick whatever phrase comes up as the suggested next thing. Mine says, my vagina is so not right. And if you like what you got, or you have another story to share, first of all, you can come see me at intermission because I want to hear what you got. But if you really like it, help Planned Parenthood out. Here's what you do. You copy it and you paste it into your favorite channel with the hashtag, you listening? Here we go. Hashtag PPTNM cares. Planned Parenthood Tennessee Memphis cares. And we light the cosmos together tonight.
I know you all are on your phones right now, but let's give another round of applause for Nick, Wendy, and Shiloh. Come on, right? Can everyone take their seats, please? Hey. We'll start dimming the lights here in a second. I want to make sure everyone is ready for our second half. We have an amazing group of women, 4 women. We have Ariel, Elizabeth, Taylor, and Kimberly. I want you all to give the same love the second half that you gave the first half. Ariel, are you ready? Come on, let's give her a hand.
Okay, so we just had a big transition. We just got up, we moved around. So let's kind of settle ourselves. So let's do something I like to call smell the flower and blow out the candle. Everybody breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. 2 more times. And now we're ready to relax and focus and listen. This has been a long time coming. I feel like I'm at the point in my emotional recovery where I needed to start helping people with my experiences. So this piece is titled Mishandled or Well-Meaning People. So I got my period for the first time when I was 10. A well-meaning person gave me 2 pieces of advice. The first was your weight during the year after you get your period will reflect your weight for the rest of your life. Basically, my brain interpreted, if I was chubby that year, I would always be chubby. The second was, one of the signs you're going to get your period is if you have a lot of discharge. Or at least that was my interpretation. My formative years were a mix of well-meaning people and my interpretations of their actions, all of which seem, at least to adult me, mishandled. At sleepaway camp the following summer when I was 11, a well-meaning person was upset that my friends and I had French kissed our boyfriends. Her position was that French kissing was a kind of a gateway to other things we were too young for. One night at camp that summer, I was assaulted. The term originally used to describe it was that I was molested. In Spanish, the word for annoy is molestar. I can honestly say that the situation could not be described as annoying. 2 friends and I were attacked by 3 boys a year older than us. They attempted to feel us up and grab us while their friends held us down. We were in a well-lit area. I finally managed to kick enough to propel myself away. I ran back to the bunk, attempting to figure out what to tell that well-meaning person, because it looked like they had been right about the kissing. When I told her, she did not believe me, and it took one of the other girls escaping and making it back to the bunk for her to spring into action to help the 3rd girl. The administration at camp did not believe us. I tried to get in touch with my mom, but I later found out that they were out of town. The head of the girls' side of camp was friends with a family member of mine, so we called her. This well-meaning person told my family member that the boys said that they didn't do anything and that they believed the boys. My well-meaning family member said boys would be boys, and it was probably something my 12-year-old cousin would do. The girls and I no longer felt safe at camp, so we left. I felt like I did not get the response necessary for such a trauma. I was afraid of the dark. I was afraid to be outside at night. I was just plain afraid. For a school assignment that year, about a time we were exploited, I wrote about the incident in camp. A well-meaning person asked why I would want to bring that up and not forget about it. After playing tackle football with some male friends, an activity where I was in control, another well-meaning person said that if I was so upset about what happened at camp, I wouldn't be letting boys tackle me. Then there were all the well-meaning people with, it could have been worse. In general, as a teenager, I felt like I was making a huge deal out of some boys painfully grabbing my breasts over my shirt and holding me down. I felt like if it had been worse, then maybe the well-meaning people around me could have handled it better. So well-meaning me decided in my late teens to tell people the story of what happened to me by sharing the worst-case scenario. I know it isn't right to lie. I know that. I just wanted people to help me make sense of something I felt was stolen from me. But if they did not think it was that bad, then I would tell them something to make them think so. I understand that I was young and traumatized, and I still feel some guilt about how I mishandled the situation. But more than anything, I feel anger towards the other well-meaning people that put me in that position. I was 11. I had to act out to get the care and attention that I so desperately needed after the negative attention of the boys. I feel embarrassed articulating this, but I feel like it's important. No one handled this in a good way. I know I was supposed to put myself in the shoes of, I'm supposed to put myself in the shoes of all these well-meaning people, but the fact of the matter is, if they had put themselves in my shoes, they would have handled all of this in a better way. Remember, the well-meaning first period advice about my weight? After camp that summer, which was about 10 months after my first period, some well-meaning people put me on Weight Watchers. I may have had a choice, but I also wanted to please them. I was 11, I was 4'10", and I was 146 pounds. I was successful and lost 20 pounds. However, I felt that between the trauma at camp, my diet, and other aspects of my life that I had no control over, I was continuously isolated from my friends. As an adult, in my more bitter moments, I questioned the timing of putting me on Weight Watchers at that moment. I'm so glad that 11-year-old me did not see it as some kind of message that if I had been thinner, I would not have been violated, because it could have totally been misinterpreted that way. One of the girls from that awful night at camp came to stay at my house that same summer. We had unbelievable sexual tension before our assault, and it hadn't dissipated. I know we were 11 and traumatized, but it was kind of freeing to explore each other's bodies and be in total control. Unfortunately, being 11, I took my arousal for excessive discharge and remembered that well-meaning person, what they told me when I got my period, and I thought my period was imminently arriving. I was so embarrassed that I ran to the bathroom 3 times to clean up. I will never forget when a boy fingered me for the first time when I was 14. I was so uncomfortable, but so grateful that I wasn't having any discharge and therefore was not going to get my period while we were fooling around. I became somewhat promiscuous from the age of 13 on because I felt in control of what was happening to my body. A few years later, I attempted to describe the 2 types of people that come out of trauma. The people who don't want anyone to touch them, and the people that want to be in control of every touch that they experience. This past summer, I read an amazing young adult novel by Amber Smith called The Way I Used to Be, and it's about a girl who gets raped by an acquaintance and spends the next few years being promiscuous for the same reasons as I chose to. And I felt so validated. When I was 22 years old, I had my period for 18 days. I was exhausted and emotional and living away from home. I did not think anything of it because my period was always weird and I was prone to depression. After some intense cramping, I started gushing blood from my vagina. My friends took me to the hospital where I was informed that I was pregnant. Since I was literally wiping my blood off the floor, I did not think I was still pregnant. But the well-meaning people at the hospital told me I could still save the baby if I rested. When I went for an ultrasound, the well-meaning tech said it was hard to see since I had a lot of fat in the way. 2 days later, I was told that I was miscarrying. Another well-meaning person gave me a pelvic exam during my miscarriage and told me that I needed to do something about the smell. Something was dying in my body. How the fuck was it supposed to smell? A very well-meaning friend told me that it wasn't a baby, it was just ooze. Well-meaning family members were not emotionally there for me like I needed them to be. Something had died in my body before I knew it was alive. I could have been a mother. It was awful. And months later, a family member's wife had a miscarriage. Everyone was concerned and expressing for this bereaved mother. When I asked a well-meaning family member why I had not received the same reception, I was informed that it was because I was not married. Now, that family member was of an older generation. However, I do not think they would have enjoyed that comment had they been in my shoes. Shortly after that, I realized that the first 25 years of my life sucked and were beyond my control. If the next 25 years were similar, then that was on me. I began a journey where I slowly became the source of comfort I was not finding outside of myself. That journey has brought me here. Now, 17 years after my miscarriage, I'm happy to say I am officially done with well-meaning people and their mishandling of my affairs. I have a wonderful and supportive husband and an amazing friend group. Thank you guys for coming. So I would like to end with this quote by Anne Lamott. You own everything that happened to you. Tell your stories. If people wanted you to write warmly about them, they should have behaved better.
I never understood how much I hated my body until I loved it. And that's really saying something because I was basically semi-pro at hating my body. Could have taught a master class. Once during my freshman year of college, I packed a scale in my suitcase for an overnight trip. Dragged the whole damn suitcase into the hotel bathroom to hide from my roommates so I could get that little LED screen to tell me how I was supposed to feel about myself that day, down to the half pound. Several years, a few therapists, and one very healthy relationship later, I got onto cordial terms with my body, but I was never a big fan. After spending so much of my life obsessing over every ounce of food that went into my mouth, every quarter of a half of an inch on my hips, one day last year, I looked in the mirror and just deeply, wholly loved what I saw. I was pregnant. I was obsessed with my belly pretty much immediately, even when it was detectable to no one but me. But I think I was 7 months pregnant when I started ordering bikinis. It was summer in Memphis, and I was incubating a hot little human body, yeah, but these bikinis had nothing to do with temperature control and everything to do with my desire for the world to appreciate this magnificent fucking belly. Who was this person? I didn't even recognize myself. The belly, my skin, my hair, I was radiant, and it was leaking out of my pores because I was becoming a mother. When do you become a mother? Is it when you see the positive pregnancy test? Or when you take the second one an hour later, just to be sure? I remember that in a strange and wonderful coincidence, the night my husband and I found out I was pregnant with Henry, I was wearing the same dress I'd worn on our very first date to the Young Avenue Deli 8 years and 28 days earlier. Do you become a mother when you feel your baby kick for the first time? I traveled so much for work while I was pregnant, and I was in the middle of a long day making my way back to Memphis from Boise, Idaho, when Henry really let me know who he was for the first time. I'd felt him move a few times before that, but this was different. Did he know we were going home to Dad? I don't know, but the entire flight from Denver to Memphis, he kicked and punched and danced for me, played at least one solo on air drums. Coming home is always good, but if I close my eyes, I can still picture the way the city looked out my window that night as we made our descent into Memphis, Henry and me. Are you a mother the moment you hear your baby's heartbeat? We heard Henry's at just 7 weeks, pulsing, frenetic, wild, and without rhythm. We heard it again, over and over, every doctor's visit pumping so strong, steady, reassuring. What about the day when they can't find your baby's heartbeat? It's somewhere between all the other moments and right before the moment he is born. When they look and you strain to hear its faithful thumping, but you don't, and no one says to you, "I'm so sorry." No one says to you, "Your baby is gone." Maybe because you are wailing and thrashing and they know that you know, or maybe because you are 9 months pregnant and he is perfect and ready and they cannot bear it. Later, I would learn that no one can bear it. I would find myself apologizing to people for ruining their day by telling them my baby had died. No one can bear it, but I had to. I can remember a dozen career aspirations I had growing up, some short-lived and some lasting, from teacher to musician to novelist, obstetrician, rock writer for Rolling Stone. The only thing I always knew was that I wanted to be a mother. I was one of those kids who made my mom tell me the story of when I was born over and over, and lucky for her, she had visual aids. I was born at home, my mom was under midwife care, and the commercial appeal at that time was doing a story on midwifery and covered my birth. Beautiful photos of my laboring mother accompany a front-page feature story about March 15th, 1985, the night that I was born. There weren't going to be any reporters at Henry's birth, but I had thought so much about what it would be like. In general, I would say I'm crunchy adjacent. Not brave enough to go the home birth route on the first try, but I definitely hired a doula and wanted a labor with as few interventions as possible. It was almost comical to me when our doula asked me if I'd thought about the birth plan. Lady, I have been thinking about this my entire life. We had written the plan out, though, and one copy was packed in my still-in-progress hospital bag. I didn't bring it when we left for labor and delivery on July 16th, hoping we'd be coming right back home. But I knew something wasn't right. My wild, energetic little guy hadn't moved in hours. I'd drunk the cold water and the sugary juice and laid on my side and then my other side, and nothing had happened. Do you become a mother when you do something impossible for your child? That's what I did for Henry. I remember telling the doctor on call that I couldn't do it. I couldn't deliver this baby. She talked me through my medical options, but it was my husband who wisely coached me later that this was something I could do as Henry's mom. This was everything I could do. Bring him into the world so we could hold him and talk to him and say goodbye to him. And so I did. It was nothing like what I had planned. There was no playlist or doula or birthing ball, and the phrases of affirmation I'd come up with in our birthing class were no good now. Do you become a mother when you hold your baby for the first time? What if his body is cold and the room is silent? Henry was 7 pounds, 1 ounce, completely perfect. He was long with fingers and toes to match. He had curly brown hair. Justin said he had my nose. I kissed his forehead and told him I loved him. We played him a song. We stared at him, our perfect firstborn son. Are you a mother when your milk comes in? My breasts, engorged and painful, had no baby to feed. They seemed to ache the worst when I cried. Is it when you bring your baby home? We brought Henry home in a tiny urn designed to look like a bluebird. We got so much mail in the weeks after that. Cards from close friends and distant family and people we'd never met. Friends of friends, some who wrote specifically to say that they'd had a baby die years ago, that they survived it. And we will too, but even now, 20 or 30 years later, they still think of their child almost every day. The cards came again around Christmas. So many of them were focused on the promise of the new year. So well-meaning. With everything we'd been through, fuck this year. Good riddance to 2019. My son was born on July 17th at 3:41 p.m., the 198th day of the year, with 167 to go. 198 days. I was never great at math, but I know that's well more than half the year. For 198 days, I was filled from the tips of the toes on my swollen-ass feet to my luxurious head of pregnant lady hair with the best drug of my life, my child, with me. We went to London, England. We went to the beach. We saw the ocean. We went to the mountains. We went to the West Coast and the Deep South and to many, many airport bathrooms together. All of my best friends, who are far-flung literally across the world, got to see me and Henry during that time, got to touch my belly or feel him kick or just generally overlap with our joy for a week or a day or a moment. So leaving 2019 was bittersweet. It was the year I held and touched and sang to my son. It was also the year I lost him, but he will be missing from me forever. When do you become a mother? As women, we are so often defined by our relation to others. We're someone's daughter, then someone's wife, then someone's mother. We're rarely allowed to be just someone. And I think I'm supposed to resent that, but the truth is, I'm lucky enough to have always known that I am someone in relation to no one else. From whatever internal wellspring comes my unfailing optimism, also comes an unshakable sense of self. And the irony is, it's exactly what frees me to appreciate the beauty of being someone something, of defining myself in those very ways that I think are meant to erase me. Instead, they are the ways that I feel most seen. Because you might know me, Elizabeth, but to truly understand me, you need to know Phil and Beth's daughter. You need to know Justin's wife. When did I become a mother? I'm not certain of the exact moment, and something tells me that mothers of living children don't spend as much time parsing those details as I do. But sometime in those 198 wonderful days of 2019, something changed. It doesn't matter when. What matters is that for as long as I live and whatever else may come, I will always feel most seen, most deeply understood when you know me not just as Elizabeth, but as Henry's mom.
Hi, I'm Taylor, and I have no idea why I signed up for this. just get another hand for these incredible women that have gone before me? I'm here to talk about breathtaking amounts of privilege, apparently, in the context. So just, that's what I'm doing. Yeah. Gonna get this tangled. That's my next goal. Got it. Vaginal flora is my topic. They said it's the Memphis Monologues. It's like the Vagina Monologues, but you write your own, and I think I may have interpreted that too narrowly because I have literally written a monologue about vaginal flora, which sounds botanical, isn't. It sounds like the best description ever of like every Georgia O'Keeffe painting, right? What am I looking at? Vaginal flora. Yes. Yes, I see that. Yes. Not what it means. No. It refers to the microorganisms that live in the vagina, specifically the bacteria and yeast, and we absolutely need them to survive. Before any of you even think about, ew, don't think that. It's all in your gut. Like, our microbiome is part of us. Gotta stay alive, we depend on it, we're symbiotic organisms, so is the vajay. She needs that bacteria and that yeast, and they keep her healthy and happy, and what can happen is, if one of those two guys gets, like, say, low self-esteem and dies off a little bit, the other does not wait patiently for the balance to be restored. No, it makes a land grab, is what happens. So if, say, you've been on antibiotics for something random, swimmer's ear, and the bacteria died off a little bit that summer when you were 13, the yeast, yeah, they're gonna make the land grab, and you're gonna have what's known as a vaginal yeast infection. That's what happened. Summer I was 13. I had gotten home from camp, looking forward to fall, really excited. Football, school supplies. Had a little bit of summer to kill. Told my mom, I was like, Mom, I'm going to ride my bike on the quad all day and fantasize about fall. And she was like, be back by supper. So I'm riding my bike, I'm thinking about my notebooks. And then it comes to me, suddenly, the itch. It's right there. Right where you can't, not in our culture, no, there will be no scratching of that in public. But I'm riding a bike, so I just give that seat a little shimmy. And it's taken care of, no problem. I can go back to school supplies because I am going to conquer the 8th grade that fall. And, nope, wait, hath returned. Maybe give that a real deep wiggle. There we go, now we're good. All right, school supplies. Really? You see, what happens in a vaginal yeast infection is that your itch-scratch paradigm is befuddled. So what I understood as a 13-year-old was when I have an itch, I scratch it and it goes away. That's how it is supposed to work. This was my entire understanding. But with the yeast infection, you are just spreading around the stuff that's making you itch whenever you scratch. So you're buying your next itch and it's getting worse. And I was starting to panic. Riding that bike around the quad going, okay, school supplies, school supplies, school supplies. Why? I gave up. I was like, I gotta get home. I don't like to think about what anyone who saw me that day thought I was doing to that bike seat. It's just really best not to dwell. I get home, throw the bike down, I say, Mom, I'm home, I'm gonna take a shower. This confused her, I'm sure, because of A, She wasn't expecting me for hours, and B, the sudden interest in hygiene. I got in there, y'all, I tried hot water, I tried cold water, I tried soap and shampoo and conditioner and everything I could find in the bathroom, and nothing would make the itch stop. I did not get any sleep that night. Just stayed up, just me and the itch. I heard my mom get up the next morning. I ran to her. I was exhausted. I said, Mom, I need to go to the doctor. She says, okay, let me call your pediatrician. I was like, no, Mom, not that doctor. I think for a moment she probably thought I was asking to see a psychiatrist. Probably would have been my next stop. I finally managed to stutter, I need to see the woman doctor. Okay. She makes a phone call. She gets me an appointment on our white privilege phone. It's a slimline, white slimline privilege. That could be a whole bit. We're not supposed to ad-lib, sorry. Thank you for calling white privilege. For immediate access to health care, press 1. For real estate, press 2. For my child is gifted, press 3. Para español, aprima, hang up. Sorry. None of that was in my monologue. Okay, I'm at the appointment. OBGYN appointment. We got this. I'm in there. I've, no pants, feet in the stirrups, draped. The OBGYN walks in, lifts the veil, and I swear to God says, oh, you've been scratching, ain't you? Shame. My whole body, it was like lava. I could just shame. Yes, I had been. It's been itching, ain't it? Anyway, all right, diagnosis, vaginal yeast infection. Prescription, pharmacy, back home, got it. All right, dump this out. It's a box. It says gyne-lotrimin on it, okay? Dump out the box. And I have 7 little eggs that are individually wrapped and some sort of plunger. It's a launcher, let's say. It's a launcher. Okay, so what your body needs in this situation is an antifungal cream, but it needs it all the way up in there. And so this is very clever. What they've come up with is a substance that at body temperature is the cream you need, but at room temperature is a solid. So you take out your little egg and you put it onto the launcher, and then you insert that whole thing just like a tampon, only a little bit further, and you hit the plunger and deploy. The egg is deployed. And pull out the launch, okay. And now you wash this off in the sink because you're going to have to use it for the next 6 days. This is a 7-day course of treatment. And then the last instruction, unfortunately, is not go about your day. The last instruction is lie down because your egg is melting at this point. And once it reaches body temperature and becomes the cream, that's a good thing, but you don't want it to just gravity out of you. So you got to go lie down. All right. So I did this. 7 days, mischief managed. Conquered the 8th grade. The next time I got this happening to me was 3 years later. So now I'm 16. Good news is I know what this is. So I am not befuddled by the itch this time. I'm a pro. Problem is I'm now at boarding school and 4 hours away from home and my doctor, and I don't know what to do because I am not telling this to the school nurse. So I call my mom and I'm like, Mom, do you remember that time that thing happened in that place and we had to go to the doctor and get that stuff? And she's like, yes. It's happening again. I've deployed my mother. She gets on the phone, she calls the doctor calls in a prescription to the pharmacy where I am, 4 hours away. She then calls the pharmacy and says, "You have just received a prescription for my daughter. I need it delivered to the following address." Gets all, just logistics, right? And then she says, "Now listen up. Here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna take that box and you're gonna wrap it in brown paper. You're gonna tape it on every side, because if my daughter gets this delivery from your pharmacy and is embarrassed in any way, I will personally come down there." And I actually don't know what she threatened him with. I don't know if it was physical violence or just arson, but she put the fear of God in that man, because when I received the package, within an hour, I have the package, and it is like Russian nesting dolls, actually, to try to get to it. But that bit worked. So I'm in my room, I unpack it, and it's a box, and I'm expecting gyne-lotrimin. What do I have? This says monostat 7. This is not what I was expecting. Dump it out, 7 eggs, launcher. I'm good, okay, I'm good. And then it hits me. I share a bathroom with 15 teenage girls. I am not gonna pull this off. I could sneak the launcher and the egg. I could get that into the stall. That's not a problem. The problem is that I've got to go to the sink and wash this thing off, right? And the sinks are not in stalls. No, it's an open floor plan bathroom. And I can't wait for the coast to be clear, because my egg is melting. I'm on the clock here. And even if I got away with it one night at the busiest time for the bathroom, right before bedtime, right before lights out, the very idea that I will pull this off 7 days in a row is not happening. I'm starting to panic. Oh God, here comes the shame lava. And I don't know what to do, and I'm trying to work it out, and suddenly, y'all, I don't know how to explain this, but something in my brain just clicked. And my brain said, or I could decide to not be embarrassed by this. I could choose to not be embarrassed. I could just, this is not embarrassing, okay? How will this go? My first thought was nonchalant. I'll just waltz in there, be like, "Hey, how are you? Going in here now, I've got my launcher." No, it's all good. I'm just vaginal yeast infection, no biggie. No big deal. I immediately saw the problem with that. Does anyone else see the problem with that? Yeah. The rumor mill was the problem with that. If I was nonchalant about it and just tried to play it cool, the whole campus within like a day would know that I had herpesgyne rickets. No, if I was gonna pull this off, I was going to have to make an announcement. I was going to have to be proactive. To get ahead of this thing, I was going to have to control the narrative, and that was going to mean I was going to have to tell everyone that this was happening to me, and therefore I am not embarrassed by it. And so, again, I was a teenage girl at the time. Just want to reiterate that. I wrote a song. Is it okay if I play it? Is that all right? Help. Whoop, you got it. Yeah. Got that? Yeah? All right. So this is a song I wrote about accepting your body even on the day when your vagina gets sick. Gyne-lotrimin is my friend. Monostat 7 is pure heaven. sex like a beast. I get some monostat to have a feast on my yeasty beast. Gyne-lotrimin is my friend. Monostat 7 is pure heaven. Thank you.
That was good. All right, hi everybody. So a couple of things. So if you haven't noticed, I've eaten a lot of tacos. I may be pregnant. So my husband and baby are in the room. So this is a really special occasion. So I used to be in the Vaginal Monologues with some of you beautiful people. Hi. And I directed it for a couple of years, so I'm super excited to be a part of Memphis Monologues and also with Elizabeth K-Wine in her last year. But tonight, my husband is going to help me because I'm going to tell you people what's in my belly. So you guys are a special audience, or whatever's in here, boy, girl, whatever. All right, so here we go. You guys are special. It's like a gender reveal, right? Because you guys are family. Hi, sisters. Okay. So for the monologue, I spent so much time thinking about what I wanted my monologue to be about, and I kept coming back to the fact that my existence, my excellence, and my extra-ass personality is completely shaped by the woman who birthed me. This monologue is for her. I am a woman, a black woman, a strong black woman. Darkest night, brightest day, standing bold and daring wild, but hear me when I say, sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Influencing the nuances of what it actually means to be a woman. So from daughter to mother, carnal to immortal, a superhero is what she was, with a cape, the S on her chest, the S, yes, the letter S, representing so much of who I have grown to be and what I would actually lack growing up as a black girl. So who I am today and in this very present moment is very much so shaped by who my mother is and what she means to me. So imagine with me for a second, a black female superhero or a super shero, S on her chest and all, and the S representing so many things, but for the sake of this piece, I'll highlight 4 things that my mother is. The first S is for smart. All my life, she spoke well, articulated, and could stand with the most professional, even though she barely graduated. Well, she dropped out and finished the next year at Central High School, same thing. Every game show, every talk show, teaching me all the things I didn't even know I needed to know, like, you don't talk like a white girl. You just talk. And you don't ever lower your head when you speak. And when you're mad, make eye contact when you speak. And that's not dancing, Kim. Real dancers dance with 2 feet. And I'm a better freestyler because of that.
I suck at twerking, though, because it doesn't use feet. She taught me that I don't have to be the smartest person in the room every minute, but the people in the room should feel smarter when I'm in it. And that's why I became an educator. And then there's the S for strong. The pure strength passed down to me because, woo, shit, goddamn, being a black woman is hard. Like, the shit ain't easy. Like, I just imagine a country girl like my mother finding love in a country-ass city boy like my dad, and his ass sucking the life out of her and all the love that she possibly had. You can laugh. And I imagine him and his lack of maturity pursuing a fight and not living through it. See, that's my story, but that was her reality. Raising two under two without. And so I grew up in a house of a love lost, a desire from a woman to press on, and the inability to actually deal with her depression. And I couldn't imagine, but I'm sure she could fathom how it took me decades to acknowledge that baggage. But it taught me to be strong for myself and that you can't depend on the actions of anyone else. And then the cycle of the strong black woman began with the murder of my father for her and passed down to me at age 2. Then there's the next S. The next S is for supportive. Not as much emotional support, but definitely physical. I grew up in a household where there were no expectations. It's almost like no credit is bad credit, so low expectations is no expectations. So I put those shits on everything. Expectations here, expectations there. I set a goal and I achieved it. That's just what I did. She showed up and she didn't even leave, and she didn't even have a car. That was just the type of woman that she is, or was rather. Because the fourth and final S is surprising, but it stands for stupid. And as smart as she is, feeding me the lies that my father was some Cupid or some Casanova having just a smidgen of clout, as though I would never find out that he was basic as fuck. It is in witnessing her weaknesses for him that I found the strength to demand more out of the men in my life. And just ask the man I'm married to, I'm quite the wife. And it's never teaching me the little things like what a gyno visit would be like, or how many times my brother would go to jail, or what support looks like when I'm a giver surrounded by takers, especially from a goddamn baby who has sucked the milk out of these 8 cups for almost 2 years. But also, how having children makes you feel whole, but how losing a parent can snatch a part of your soul. And boy, is that a challenge. Because I'm doing it my way, and it's true because the one thing my mother didn't tell me was how hard it would be to do this thing called life without her. And that was so fucking stupid. But yes, let's not forget that I am a woman. I am a black woman. I am a strong black woman. But every day I fight to be seen. And without you, I'm on the front line by myself. I'm learning to thrive in my existence as a marginalized, depressed, stressed, beautifully blessed black woman because I don't have you to do it. I advocate for my goddamn self. I admit when I'm wrong, I seek professional help. And 15 years later, I still want to call you. And I speak of you as though you're still here. See, 2 years ago, this motherless child became a mother. And child, I long for your presence, standing with me on these stages, turning pages and chapters of books I'd never dared to open, and doors of jobs I'd never imagined I'd walk through. I've gone back and forth tonight talking about you in the present, because you are the music in my monologue. You live in me, coming to me in my dreams when the realities are just too fucking harsh, like black women being 4 times more likely to die in childbirth and shit. Helping me to cope as a black woman because we get the short end of the stick when it comes to the fucking statistics. Offering guidance and plans, holding my hand and covering me. But because I had you, I have you. My child or my children will never meet you. But I hope that they see parts of you when they see me, especially the strong, smart, supportive, and stupid crazy about raising them to be even better than me parts. And now I'll ask for my husband to bring himself up here, wherever you are. Come here, man. Oh, Laura has the baby. Thanks, Laura. And I'll finish the rest when I figure out what this is. Okay, make a mess. Everybody close your eyes. Y'all want to count them down? Count them down from 3, maybe 10. He made this thing himself. Count them down, people. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I already had one of these. Damn. My husband has always treated me like a queen. If he had to, he'd give me the world. But for some reason, I wrote alternate endings, by the way. But for some reason, he refuses to give me a damn girl. There will be not a next time. The universe has spoken, and I am a hashtag boy mom. May I raise gentlemen who respect women and dare to be different. And for the love that I'll be given, may they feel that love in return as little black boys. I'm gonna cry myself, hold on. I hope to be, flaws and all, a super shero to them, as y'all will always be to me.
You want me to keep going? Come on, y'all. Let's give another round of applause for everyone tonight. Everyone. For those of you who have never done this, it takes a lot of courage to get up here and bare your soul. I love this woman that's standing next to me, so.
Listen, I'm going to go back to the important thing, which is that if you're a little drunk and ready to spend some money, the silent auction is open for another 10 minutes, so you better get over there. And like, there are vibrators, there's erotica. You don't need the internet. You have a textbook. You have a book, a paperback. Fold it back. Take it on your next trip.
Elizabeth doesn't know this is happening, but she has been the heart and soul of this for 10 years. And she finally shared her story. It was a story we did not want her to have to tell, but I hope it made a difference in your life. It's made a difference in my life, and we want to thank her
for being our leader, being our friend, being our cheerleader.
I'm only going to murder this plant. And so in celebration of the short life that it will have lived, you should go and give more money in the silent auction for Planned Parenthood. It's been my honor, truly, and I'm just glad you could all share it with me. Have a great night. Thank you for being a part of this.